The penultimate skill of what is considered to be the most meta build for the trapsin is Lightning Sentry. This thing, when fully synergized, is going to get an amazing amount of damage, has a really good radius, shoots a bunch of times, and since it's a lightning bolt, it is going to be able to collide and pierce through a ton of targets. Now, you might think, well, pretty simple, you just put down your Lightning Sentry and move on. But there's a couple things that you need to understand about this skill itself. Most notably, trap placement. So when you think about creating traps to be able to kill things as effectively as possible, what do you think the best setup is? Is covering an area with kind of a crisscross pattern going to be the best way, so that they're all shooting at least somewhere into the middle and potentially hitting multiple targets? Is putting them in legitimately a straight line across the bottom the best way, because they're all going to hone in on one point, creating that focus point? The answer is, realistically, you actually want to drop all of your traps on the same point. Now, why is this so important? I'm going to go down and I'm going to go attack Shank's minions with all of these traps in one line, and I'll show you what that kind of looks like. So here, let's do a more spread out. Okay, so you'll see our turrets are kind of shooting in whichever way. They're trying to all shoot at whichever target is closest to them. You can see that it's very chaotic where they're shooting. We're definitely killing a couple targets down here, but I wouldn't say that that was very effective, right? It was kind of mayhem and nothing was really happening. So when we drop all of our traps in a single space, you'll see that all of our attacks are very concentrated, and immediately bodies are falling to the ground. The reason why this is so important is because we want to get bodies as fast as possible so that we can get Corpse Explosion going. Corpse Explosion will look to see if there's a target within range and then try to target a body near it. When you're using Lightning Sentry, spreading them out, while you think it'll create this kind of crisscross pattern, the strength in Lightning is that it has such high damage, but that also means that you have very high variance. If you could get 5 bolts shooting at one time, that is going to even out your variance. So you're getting more of the average damage on each volley. And if you're getting the average damage on something that's 1 to 2,000, hitting a single target at a time, that's going to more quickly generate bodies, and that means that your Death Sentry is going to be a pop-off even easier. The other thing that you want to note is that when you're targeting a single monster, putting all of your Death Sentries slightly behind them, and again, stacking them right on top of one another, means that they are going to hit your target as soon as possible, and they are all going to be shooting in the same line, so as long as you're keeping yourself between you and your traps, they are always going to connect with all 5 simultaneously. The important thing to note about Lightning Sentry is, just like with all traps, they are not considered to be the assassin. So, +2 elemental skill damage and minus enemy res, like on a facet, is not going to apply to your sentry's damage. The only things that are going to increase your sentry's damage are things like Conviction Aura, which will reduce enemy res, or Lower Res, which will also reduce enemy lightning res. Even if a monster is considered broken, according to having a Conviction or a Lower Res effect on them, reducing their immunity, your minus enemy res on your gear still isn't going to apply. And this is something that we see so often. It's a lightning trapsin trying to use a Griffins to boost their damage and throwing a facet into it, and all of that is just wasted stats. Now, if you're using the Griffins for the FCR breakpoint in PvP, I totally understand, but I'm talking about those stats in particular do not apply to your traps, so don't waste your time and money putting gear on that isn't going to affect your overall damage. It is a lightning skill, so its minimum damage is always going to be 1, no matter how many points you have in synergies. So it's going to maintain that 1 minimum, because that is just the identity of lightning as an element. It's that 1 minimum on any one skill is always going to stay that value, regardless of whether or not you're multiplying it by thousands of enhanced damage. So this is something that you're never really going to see, but if you ever had the question, at least here's the answer. Lightning Sentry has a mechanism called Last Collide. This is something in the game that says if a monster was the last target hit by something, it can't be hit with it again. Since it is a size 2 projectile, you can think about a medium-sized monster in the game. So Serpent Magus in Act 2 is a size 2 monster. So the width of a size 2 bolt does mean that it can hit 2 targets simultaneously. And because Last Collide always checks the last target, those 2 monsters can actually get hit multiple times by the same lightning bolt. But more often than not, if a lightning bolt hits a target, it can't hit that target again. So if a monster were running in line with the lightning bolt, they're not getting continuously hit by it, unless that lightning bolt strikes a different target before it registers the first target again. Long story short, the game tries to make it so that only one lightning bolt will hit a target once, but there are some scenarios where you might see a higher damage output because it's flip-flopping between two targets that are both in the lightning bolt's range the entire time. Oh, hello. Didn't see you there. I was too busy drinking out of my weird nether bottle. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that this video helps. Before the end of the video, if you wouldn't consider liking and subscribing, it would mean the absolute world to me. Thank you so much. I'm glad that I can at least try to help out a little bit with some of these more interesting skills that aren't necessarily super easy to understand in the beginning. But again, I hope that it helps, and thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.